Today we are adding and subtracting polynomials, so I'm going to get right into it. If you want to pause to write down the essential question that you're thinking about, it's how are you going to do this? How are you going to set up the problem? There's actually two different methods of thought with how you're going to set up the problem. You can either set it up what I like to think of as the vertical method or the horizontal method. Okay. Either way, I don't care which method you pick one and use it for the problems after this. All right. With the vertical method, what you want to make sure of is to line up your like terms. Okay. What I mean by that is if I take the first set of parentheses, this polynomial, I have 2x squared. There's no x term, so I'm going to leave a space. We could even fill it in with a 0x term if we wanted, or just leave a space right there, okay? A space for any x term. And then we line up the like terms of the second thing, right? When you're adding a negative, it's kind of like subtracting 5x squared minus 300x minus 800. So you can see that I've lined up the terms. Then we can add them down. So you get negative 3x squared minus 750, and there's your final answer. All right. The key thing is, though, when you line up your like terms, either leave a blank or fill in with a 0x or a 0 term if you're missing one. Horizontally, I think some people like this one because, again, when you rewrite it, you can cross out to make sure you're not missing any terms. So look for the highest exponent. So I have 2x squared. See if there's any more. All right. Subtract 5x squared. Cross them out as you go so that you know that you've written all of them. We're going to regroup them in a way that they're all together. Right? Look for the x terms next. Okay, I have to subtract 300x. And then plus 50 minus 800. When I combine these together, you get the same exact answer. So doesn't matter which method you use, you're going to end up with the same answer. The key with this horizontal method is that you are regrouping your like terms together. So take a second to write down one or the other. You don't necessarily need both in your notes, but it is helpful to know that they both exist. When you're adding multiple polynomials, it works the same. So maybe pause the video and try this one. Even though it's a little bit more difficult, you have the knowledge to be able to take care of it. Okay? Giving myself a little bit more space. I'm going to start with the vertical method and list things out. I have 8x cubed. I'm going to put it in standard form with the vertical method to make sure that I have and can line them up with their like terms. All right, 8x squared, I'm going to put underneath the other x squared so that they're lined up. All right, all my like terms are lined up. And then I have 4x squared, a negative 3x cubed, and a minus 1. I'm going to leave this blank here to represent the x spot for that third polynomial. All right, and then we add them down. Cubed and 3x squared minus 1x plus 5. For the horizontal method, you kind of just look through the problem and you find your things. So I got a negative 8x cubed. I'm going to cross that out to make sure that I remember that I wrote it down. And then subtract 9x squared. Got that one. Plus 8x squared plus 4x squared. And I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to put a dot, dot, dot to carry on to the next line. Okay, so be careful with that if you are doing all of them. Okay, I missed one, the negative 3x cubed, so I'm going to put that up front. 3x cubed. Okay, and I have an x term. Crossout method, this horizontal, helps you see if you've got all of your terms written in there. Plus 2 say, okay, did I find all of my terms? Yes, now we can add them together, and guess what? We're going to end up with the exact same thing. So it does not matter which way you do the problem, as long as you're being careful and making sure that you have all of your terms. All right. When you're looking at subtracting, you want to be really careful. All right. So highlight this in your notes. All right. Distribute the negative. Highlight this in your notes. Think about like feeding the birds, if that's the way you learned it in middle school. Make sure that you distribute to all of these things on the inside. All right. So I'm going to start the problem out by distributing that negative to every single term, and I'm just going to rewrite the problem. Okay. So negative 2x cubed subtract 4x squared plus 3x minus 1. I distributed that negative, which flips all of the symbols. All right. And I can either line them up vertically, or I can just regroup them horizontally. Right? I'm just going to regroup them with different colors, so hopefully that helps a little bit. The x cubed is my highest exponent, so I'm going to start with that, and I have that in 2 places. Then I'm going to look for some x squared terms. I only have one of those. Right? Once I write it down, I'm going to cross it out so that I'm very careful that I don't miss any of my terms. And then plus 3x. And then at the end, I've got a subtract 3, subtract 1. When I combine like terms, now hopefully you can see each color has different like terms. Negative 8x cubed, subtract 4x squared, plus 8x minus 4 would be my final answer then. Okay. So write down, distribute the negative, be very careful. Be very careful with the negative. So maybe pause the video and try this one on your own. See if you can distribute that negative. All right. I'm going to distribute the negative first. All right. So think of this as subtract 7x cubed minus 5x squared plus 12. Many of you will get to the point where you don't have to write out so much work, and that's fine. You can kind of skip around and do it as you will. I'm going to do this one horizontal or vertically to show you kind of another way to think about it. Okay. There's my first one, and then my second one, I'm going to line up any like terms. Again, there's a 0x term in the middle, so I'm going to not write anything there, or if you want to fill it in with a 0x, that's fine. Negative 6x cubed, subtract 8x squared plus 5x plus 12. So again, be very careful with your negatives. It kind of flips all of the symbols, and I'm showing more work necessarily than you need to. So again, pause the video, try another one. This one's addition, but do you remember, and you know, don't get them confused. So either way, it works. You can just be careful that you don't miss any terms. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one horizontally and look for any like terms. Right. To make sure that I'm not missing any. All right, so kind of 2 different trains of thought. My final answer then, 4m cubed plus 4m squared. These will cancel out. Plus m subtract m is 0. I don't need to write that. Okay, subtract 3. Happy solving. Be careful with your negatives. All right, so I would say to only combine like terms and be careful to distribute the negative for subtraction. All right, happy solving. pause. Oh, you're kidding. Did I not record it?